Hello there, how are you? And welcome to Breakfast All Day. We've got a veritable smorgasbord of stuff to talk about today. Ben will be here eventually.
Can we say smorgasbord for breakfast? Maybe it's a buffet.
It's a veritable breakfast buffet. It's like you're in Vegas, but you're winning.
Don't be anti-Scandinavian. Maybe they do smorgasbord at breakfast. For
They
all
might.
I know.
You know why the Norwegian Navy puts barcodes on the side of their ships? So they can Scandinavian.
Oh my God.
Leave this house.
That might be the worst.
Listen, you started it. You brought up Scandinavian.
That might be your worst dad joke ever.
Wow.
And that is saying something. It can only go up from here, guys. It cannot get worse.
Why did the cowboy get a dachshund? I told you guys this the other day.
No, please.
So he could get a long little doggy.
Yep. Okay, you reached your quota.
Okay,
That's it. So we're going to talk about a lot of movies, and Ben will be here eventually, and we'll do some Game of Thronesy and Fosse Verdony type stuff on the Patreon. But let's begin with John Wick 3. It's the third John Wick movie.
It is the third, and maybe not the last one.
I bet
we'll
they make
see.
more. I have
I'm
a
sure.
hunch.
And thus my dog joke was germane to this discussion. John Wick 3, Parabellum, finds John Wick on the run. This movie starts up pretty much right exactly where John Wick 2 left off. He's been marked incommunicado, which means
Excommunicado.
excommunicado. Sorry.
Who's Catholic here? All of us, kind of.
He's been marked excommunicado, which means that he gets no help, and there's a bounty on his head, or it raises the bounty that was already on his head because he killed somebody in the Continental Hotel.
Which is a no-no.
Which is a big no-no. And we see more of the rules, and we see more of how the high table works, and everyone's after him. And, but it's John Wick, and be careful when you take on the Baba Yaga because he's dangerous. We get a little hint of where his original name might have come from, right? Because at one point, I don't want to give this away, but there's a discussion he has with Angelica Houston in Russian, and you get a hint at like, oh, maybe John Wick is an Anglicanized name. Maybe. So, but anyway, you get more dogs in tactical gear, which is pretty exciting. Amazing stunts. I'm not going to really tell you the story because it's John Wick versus everybody. And as Winston says in this movie, 50-50. I mean, this ranks up to when my brother and I used to watch NASCAR back in the day, and it was, I can't remember the name of the driver that, like, in the 90s was smoking everyone. It was basically him against the field, right? Like John
Dale
Wick.
Earnhardt.
No, it was before Dale. I can't remember. Somebody will tell me. Anyway, John Wick versus everybody. And okay, and it goes off, and it's bonkers, and it's, this gives you more of what you expect. They up the ante on stunts, and this is almost a combination. Like there's moments where it feels like vintage John Woo. There's moments where it feels like Buster Keaton or Tex Avery. Even like this keeps going over the top, and just when you think you've gone too far, it's like, oh, we're going to go even farther than that. And it all kind of hangs together. And I had a great time in this. And at the screening we were all at, everybody was screaming and yelling, and
oh my God, I grabbed your arm so many times. So I was like screaming and squirming and then splaying out and then squirming into a little ball again. You should, if you're gonna go see this movie, which you should because it's very good, bring somebody with you that you actually know, because otherwise you're gonna be grabbing random strangers sitting next to you. It is a visceral full body experience.
And one of the things I'm glad you brought up in this movie is that there's a lot of movies where, in the hands of a different style of director and different, Chad Stahelski brings some really, really great stunt work and an ability to capture what you're seeing on this. There's a lot of movies where you would get numb. Like after a while, the violence you're like, yeah, okay. And this one, you feel every gunshot, every stab, almost everything.
Here's where I disagree with you.
Okay.
I think this movie is so front-loaded. Like, the first half hour is extraordinary. There is a fight in a public library. There is a fight in a hall of weapons, should we call it? I don't even know what it is.
It's like there happens to be this antique weapon shop.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
So
anyway, but you get these like 3 or 4 just extraordinary scenes right out the gate. And then the movie, for me, kind of started getting weirdly dull. Like, I was less involved with the violence. It wasn't as exciting as the stuff they had already shown me. I don't care about the high table or the plot in general. Like, it was when this movie, you're right, it does pick up right where John Wick 2 left off. And then it reminded me, I can't even remember what happened in John Wick 2, except that there were some really great fights and violence. So, like, the great fights and violence are fine, but, like, I do not care about the plot. I barely care about this character, except that he misses his wife and he likes dogs. And so...
What else is there?
And he's Keanu Reeves.
And he's Keanu Reeves, exactly. So, yes, you should see this movie. It is. There are moments that are great, but I don't think it maintains over the course of the film as well as it should.
You bring up a really interesting point, Alonso, because earlier this week, my wife and my son and I sat and watched the first two back to back. And so I came into this having just watched John Wick 2.
Okay.
And, that's a really interesting point, because I think if you're somebody who has taken a bit since the last film and are not, like, I'm glad I had the primer, right? Like, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the second one. When I was rewatching it, I'm like, oh yeah, right? So
I didn't remember the second one either, but it picks up right where that left off, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Now he did something that was wrong, and that's why he's now on the run, and it kind of came back to me.
I honestly couldn't remember if. At first I wasn't sure, like, are we going to get a flashback that explains why we're here?
Nope.
And then eventually, like, oh, okay, so this is a thing that happened in movie 2 that I just don't remember. But no, there are sequences that are extraordinary. Reeves is fun. Ian McShane is fun. Asya Kate Dillon, who I've been a big fan of from Billions, is terrific here. They are a non-binary actor, and on Billions plays a non-binary character, whereas in this film, the character seems to be leaning more toward a femme presentation, I guess we could say, skirts and, chokers and whatnot. But
it's kind of severe.
Kind of
angular.
Very severe, very much, the person who's there for the company. And I think a really arresting screen presence. So I want to see more big screen roles for them because I think they're awesome.
It's an incredible supporting cast in general. I mean, you get Halle Berry and...
Who doesn't get much to do...
Right.
Performance-wise.
But
certainly,
it's a cool physical role.
Violence-wise, yes.
Better than Catwoman.
Well, sure. Lawrence Fishburne.
He's always good.
Jason Mantzoukas.
Right, yes.
Right. Lance Reddick comes back, who in a recent interview on Moviephone has said that he is doing Hector Elizondo from Pretty Woman as the concierge. As the concierge, right? And I was like, oh.
And, again, if you like analog office equipment... these movies really bring that to the front.
And all the operators who look like they work at like punk rock hair salon, they're all
they're all like suicide girls,
right. Mark Dacas, what's his name? Mark. Oh, I just had it. Dacascos as kind of the sushi chef.
Oh yeah.
Slash assassin slash John Wick fanboy.
Oh right. Yes.
Almost steals all of his scenes with Keanu Reeves, and I would love to see him get some more kind of spotlight roles.
And there's a great Hall of Mirrors fight that Reeves has with two of the dudes from the raid that is, again, and that's in the third act, things do start picking up again. And it's not like none of the action scenes on their own aren't great. It's more about the pacing of the film and how sort of worn down you might get by it because there's just not enough other stuff or there's not enough variety to make it. I don't know. I thought I should not be bored in a John Wick movie, and I'm feeling kind of bored.
It takes a breath in the middle, in the desert. It does, and maybe that's okay to recharge for a little bit. I would say that there's great variety to all of the big action sequences.
Right.
There's a million gnarly ways to die in this. You think a library is a safe, quiet place, and maybe it's not. That's one of the most incredible scenes of them all. That and the thing with the Hall of Knives. But one thing I love about all of these films is just the specificity of the world and of of the language, and it's a recognizable modern New York in a lot of ways, but it's also so heightened, and they
secret shadow New York.
They really stick to the code and the language and the clothing, and they never deviate from that. And so I appreciate how fully fleshed out that world is
without overdoing it.
Yeah,
right?
and they're very smart about making this assassin on assassin, so it's like we can enjoy the killing without thinking, oh no, innocent bystanders or whatever. Like, everybody involved in these fights is a killer, and so if we see 20 people get mowed down, it doesn't have that, like, it doesn't feel weird.
Icky.
It's not icky in the way that if just like 20 random people who maybe didn't have it coming.
There's one of the things they set up about this world is that they give you enough of it, but you're not overwhelmed by it, which is nice. They stay consistent with it, and there's both I love the tidbits of professional courtesy that happen in these movies. Like in the second one, there's some great stuff going on between John Wick and the character that Common's playing, and it's very much just like an acknowledgement, buying each other drinks, that kind of stuff. Even though they're both trying to kill each other, and there's some of that going on here, but there's also a professionalism, right? In that collateral damage would be, you get the sense it would be unacceptable. Like they're not. I mean, the whole kind of this whole arc starts from Alfie Allen being unprofessional, right, and that's not allowed. And
it's funny because I was just thinking about this. These are all the characters in these movies are contract killers, but do we ever see them actually hired to kill someone outside of their little bubble world, or are they just always killing each other?
Oh, good point.
There's that reference in the second one where he shows up at the Continental in Italy, and who is it that played Django?
Franco Nero.
Franco Nero. It's like, I have a question. You're not here for the Pope, are you? And Wick's like, nope. He's like, okay, cool. So there's at least hints of that. A couple other notes on casting I want to point out for people who are TV fans. Robin Lord Taylor, who is on Gotham as the Penguin, is one of the guys working kind of the desk, the kind of the call center.
Really?
In this, he's barely noticeable, but he's the one who's like
the one guy.
He's the one dude.
It's all
and then
women.
Jerome Flynn, who you would recognize recently as Bronn, the guy with the crossbow from Game of Thrones.
And for all of you out there who think I don't know anything, I said to Matt, "Hey, isn't that Bronn from Game of Thrones?" I recognized him. He has a key role.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I don't disagree with you. The stuff in Morocco does kind of slow down, and it feels like a little bit of a pointless side quest, and also, without getting too, I don't want to spoil this, but the Elder is not as eld as I expected. But
one thing I do love about all these movies, though, Chad Stahelski has this stunt coordinating background. He really lets the fight scenes play out, and they are big, long pieces of choreography that are not edited within an inch of their lives. You can really see, and like, I don't want to say luxuriate.
Motion,
you don't want to luxuriate in them necessarily, but you are
appreciate
you are immersed in them. And also, it's shot so beautifully. The dramatic use of lighting, like when the power goes out at the Continental, the way like the streaks of light come in, and the light sources that do exist in this beautiful cathedral-like lobby, and then also some stuff that's taking place in the ballet company, which is very dark and dramatic with very dramatic, stark uses of lighting there. So there's a lot of artistry to go along with the brutality and this fully realized world that they've created here.
As somebody pointed out on Twitter, if you like watching John Wick slide coins across tables and staring at people, you'll get tons of that.
Anyway, I dug it. It is the best of the three for me. I'm saying 8.
I said 7. I mean, people should see it, and I think fans of the franchise will like it. It's probably my least favorite of the three, though. Yeah, just because it's the first one where I felt fatigue setting in.
Maybe they mean for you to feel fatigued because you're taking every pummeling blow along with Keanu.
Yeah, nice try.
I thought it was great. I had a great time. 9.
Okay, our number's an 8. It's at 88% on the tomato meter. So go and check it out.
Or else.
Yeah. Why not? Thanks for watching. You can like this video, and you can subscribe to us here on YouTube. Follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. That's where our viewers get exclusive content, like our Game of Thrones recaps, our Fosse Verdon recaps, reviews of trailers, and other cool stuff like that. So check it out. Enjoy. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.